Hello, everyone. So glad you could join us. Welcome to First Health Advisory's webinar, When You Can't Just Patch It, an IT leader's centralized patch management journey. I'll be your moderator today. I'm Jessica Davis, the Director of Marketing and Communications for First Health. I'm sure many of you know that the medical device security and IoMT security in healthcare is one of the largest challenges that you all face. Particularly in the clinical setting. First Health Advisory's response to these challenges is through centralized patch management, which takes the legwork out of patch management to support overburdened providers. We work very closely with manufacturers to scour vulnerability disclosures to understand what's needed for remediation while working to identify device configurations and capabilities and continuously leverage advanced tools to determine if and where critical vulnerabilities are found in the network. Texas Health Resources has taken on centralized patch management with First Health, and today you'll hear from their Senior Director of Healthcare at Technology Management, Pete Larose, and our own Executive Vice President of Clinical and Operational Technology, Olin Dillard. They'll talk about the challenges and key metrics that led to the launch of THR's ongoing patch management project with First Health, including lessons learned and insights into just what centralized patch management entails and how it can support the reduction of critical endpoint vulnerabilities. And with that, I'll hand it over. But we'll really have an opportunity here to ask questions. We really encourage you at any point to pop your questions into the chat so that we can fuel this discussion and really get some of your most pressing questions answered. And with that, we'll hand it over to Olin for today's discussion. Thank you so much.
Hey, everyone. Thank you, Jessica. And we're all anxious to hear Pete's story. So I'm going to move through some points, some thoughts, challenges for those who maybe aren't familiar. What is the big deal with patching IoMT devices? Patching is not new. It's something that the enterprise does very well. So I'll start with a little context around that and the IoMT domain specifically. And then we can segue into a real application of that and Pete's experience. We know that installing, operating system security patches is the best way to stop vulnerabilities from being exploited. We also know that enterprise teams everywhere do this well every day. It's not such a big deal. The interest in this conversation is what about medical devices? And we know that medical devices are not managed and they're not patched in that way and they're not maintained. Medical devices are owned by HTM, biomed, and clinical engineering. Typically, IT doesn't take responsibility for security updates. There's a lot of nuances, patient safety considerations, and things that go into that. And unless you have a mature, established security program in HTM, that they're often not being addressed or patched. Typically, support for patching of medical devices is provided through contractor, OEM or third party, or the HTM teams. It's a very manual process in most cases, if it's being done. And generally, the only way HTM has to track patching is through their CMMS. And of course, that requires it to be documented well and accurately. And even then, based on out-of-the-box work order configurations and trouble codes, it may be difficult to pull those statuses from within the language of work orders. We know a large amount of exploitable critical vulnerabilities affect medical devices due to a standard operating systems that they run on. And so patching processes for these systems that doesn't require software installation can save a significant amount of time and effort, and also provide a means to track and verify that the patches have been installed. Some challenges to patching and applying those processes to medical devices are medical devices. Connected medical devices are very different than traditional enterprise managed devices. They're not managed devices, often legacy devices. They generally cannot meet traditional enterprise security expectations, SLAs, or remediation approaches. In most cases, medical devices cannot be actively scanned. In most cases, you cannot install third-party agents, automation, SCCM on IoMT, as perhaps the enterprise does frequently. And then availability and application for patches is different for IoMT devices. In the medical domain, patches must be validated by the MDM. You cannot simply take whatever the OS vendor makes available and apply it in a safe way. Validated patch approval from the manufacturers is frequently not easy to obtain. And what is approved for install varies greatly between device model and is difficult to track in the CMMS, as I mentioned earlier. So without a centralized patching strategy or solution for IoMT, it's difficult to document. It requires technicians to be in front of the devices with external storage to apply patches. It's difficult and inefficient to track down devices needing updates. And potentially skill sets of biomed technicians within these departments, as they are, may not allow them to install these patches. There's some enterprise versus clinical environment of care perspectives. Looking at it from the enterprise view, they want to know, why can they not actively scan IoMT? And generally, IoMT devices don't have the processing power to run agents or be polled. They usually have a high utilization rate, and so obviously that can't be done while they're providing care. Data security wants things patched and rebooted immediately, and they're good at that in the enterprise domain. But patient safety and device availability is always priority one for clinical devices. So scanning and patching and rebooting the IoMT devices while providing care and therapy is very high risk.